My name's Lucas Dawson. I'm 27, and I've spent most of my life right here in Santa Barbara, California, where the ocean meets the mountains and the sunsets look like someone painted them on purpose. My parents still live a few miles up the coast in a modest house they've had since before I was born. My dad used to be a fisherman, and my mom worked at a local diner serving tourists who never stopped asking where the best beach was. I grew up with the sound of waves as my lullaby. I learned to swim before I could ride a bike, and even now, the ocean is the one place that can calm my head when life gets too loud. These days I work as a lifeguard at the main beach. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me close to the thing I love most. I sit up on that tall lifeguard chair, scanning the horizon, blowing my whistle at kids who get too close to the rocks and tourists who act like rip currents are just a rumor. Most shifts are routine. A few rescues from overconfident swimmers, reminders about sunscreen, and the occasional lost kid crying because they can't find their parents. But I'll be honest. In a town full of surfers showing off and girls in designer bikinis, I sometimes feel like background noise. Just a local guy doing his job. Reliable, steady, not exactly the kind of guy people notice. No one has ever accused me of being the life of the party. That Saturday started like any other perfect California weekend. The beach was packed with families, couples, and groups of friends claiming spots with umbrellas and coolers. The air smelled like salt water mixed with sunscreen and hot dogs from the vendors. I was halfway through my shift, perched on my tower, when I heard a familiar laugh from below. I looked down and saw Claire Reed leaning against the railing, arms crossed like she had all the time in the world. Claire is my boss. She's the head lifeguard supervisor for this whole stretch of coastline. She's 35, but she looks like she could still win those old beach volleyball tournaments without breaking a sweat. Tall and athletic, sun-kissed blonde hair usually tied back in a ponytail, sharp blue eyes that miss nothing, and a smile that can feel warm or stern depending on her mood. Claire commands respect without ever needing to raise her voice. She's been in charge for about 5 years. From what I have heard, she used to be a competitive swimmer in college. Nearly made it to nationals until an injury sidelined her. Now she runs the team like a well-oiled machine, making sure we're trained, focused, and ready for anything the ocean throws at us. Every weekend, without fail, she shows up in her sleek one-piece swimsuit, does her warm-ups, and swims out to the red buoy and back. It's like a ritual. Like she's reminding everyone, and maybe herself, that she still has it. She looked up at me, shielding her eyes from the sun, and her lips curved into that smirk she always wore when she was about to push someone. "Lucas," she called, "you look bored up there. Spot any sharks today?" I chuckled and adjusted my sunglasses. Nah, just the usual. Kids building sandcastles like they're trying to impress the world, and tourists ignoring the flags. She nodded, gaze drifting toward the water. Good, keep it that way. There was a pause. Then she tilted her head, studying me like she was measuring something. "You know," she said, "I've seen you out there on your days off. You're a strong swimmer, better than most of the guys on the team." I felt my neck warm. I didn't know if it was the compliment or the way her eyes lingered just a little too long. "Thanks, boss," I said. "Comes with growing up in it." Her smile widened, and I saw a spark of mischief in her eyes. "I've heard you're one of the fastest on the crew," she said. "Care to prove it?" I blinked. "Prove it how?" She pushed off the railing and stepped closer to the base of my tower. "Race me!" Out to the buoy and back. I stared at her, sure I'd misheard. Claire Reed did not make casual challenges. She made statements. She made rules. But this felt different. Personal. Like she wanted to see what I'd do when she threw a match into my quiet life. "If you win," she continued, lips pursing like she was thinking, "I'll treat you to dinner. Whatever you want. Your call." My grip tightened on the edge of the tower. Dinner with Claire. My boss. 8 years older than me. The woman everyone respected and no one really got close to. It felt like a line, one I wasn't supposed to step over, even if it was just a bet. But the way she looked at me, like she expected me to back down, stirred something in my chest. Pride, maybe, Curiosity, definitely. "You're on," I said before I could talk myself out of it. "But don't go easy on me." Her laugh was real, cutting through the beach noise. "Wouldn't dream of it. Meet me down by the water in 10. I'll grab my gear." My heart was pounding as I radioed in for a quick break. One of the other guards covered my post, and I climbed down, pulling off my lifeguard shirt and leaving it on the tower. I was just in my standard red swim trunks. Nothing fancy. Functional. Claire reappeared a minute later, already in her swimsuit, stretching with the calm precision of someone who had done this 1,000 times. A few of the other guards gathered, whistling and cheering like they could feel a show coming. "Go get him, Claire!" someone shouted. Claire didn't even look at them. Her eyes were on me. We walked to the water's edge, the sand warm under my feet. The buoy bobbed about 100 meters out, a red dot against the blue waves. Claire turned to me, her expression focused but playful. "Ready to eat my wake?" she asked. I tried to match her confidence, even though my stomach was tight. "We'll see about that." One of the guys lifted his whistle, and the sound cut through the air. We dove in together, and the cold water hit like a shock. The ocean wrapped around me, familiar and wild. Claire surged forward right away, her strokes long and powerful, like the water was made for her. I kept pace, breathing steady, focusing on my form. I reminded myself of all those early mornings with my dad, learning to read currents, learning when to fight and when to flow. We were neck and neck, salt stinging my eyes, the buoy getting closer. I glanced sideways. Claire was right there, determination on her face, her body moving like she was still competing. And in that moment, it stopped feeling like a simple race. It felt like she was testing me for something else, something unspoken, something dangerous. I pushed harder, and the ocean roared around us as the buoy rose in front of us like a finish line. I reached out, my fingers stretching toward it, and I knew whatever happened next was going to change the way Claire Reed looked at me forever. My fingers slapped the buoy a split second before Claire's did, and the sound was loud in my head, even with the waves crashing around us. I grabbed it for balance, chest heaving, salt burning my throat. Claire surfaced beside me, water rolling off her shoulders, her eyes sharp like she couldn't decide if she was annoyed or impressed. "Not bad, Dawson," she said, treading water with ease. "You got lucky with that little current." I shook water from my face and smirked. Luck had nothing to do with it. Quote. Her mouth curled like she liked that answer more than she should. For a second, we just floated there, the buoy rocking between us, the beach a blur of noise in the distance. Then Claire pushed off first. "Back," she said, like she was the one giving the order. We swam in, not as fast as before, but still, with that quiet tension in every stroke. When my feet touched the sand, the cheers hit me like a wall. A couple of the guys clapped my back, laughing like they'd just watched something they weren't supposed to see. "Underdog wins," one of them shouted. Claire stood in the shallows, wringing water from her ponytail, laughing too, but her laugh sounded different than it usually did at work, less guarded, more real. She looked at me like she was seeing me as something other than the quiet lifeguard who always followed the rules. "All right," she said, stepping onto the sand. "You beat me fair and square." I tried to play it cool, but my heart was still racing. "So dinner, right?" She lifted an eyebrow, and her smile turned sly. "Dinner, sure, but that was the warm-up." I blinked. "Warm-up." Claire rolled her shoulders like she was loosening up for a real fight. 300 meters. Freestyle. Winner takes all. The guys around us started reacting right away. Whistles, laughter, people calling out bets. Beachgoers nearby turned their heads, curious. Claire didn't look at any of them. Her eyes stayed on me. My arms already felt heavy from the first race, and my lungs were still working to catch up. But the challenge in her face lit something inside me I didn't want to admit. "You really want to do this again?" I asked. "I do," she said simply. I stepped closer, close enough to see the freckles across her nose. "Fine, but if I win again, that reward better be worth it." Her gaze dropped to my mouth for a quick second before returning to my eyes. "Oh, it'll be worth it," she said. "Trust me." That should have been enough to make me nervous. Instead, it made my stomach flip. We lined up again, side by side, toes at the edge of the water. The ocean looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The first race felt like a dare. This one felt like a statement. The whistle blew. Claire exploded forward like a shot, long, powerful strokes cutting through the surface. I dove in right behind her, the cold water wrapping around me, and the roar in my ears drowned out everything but my own breathing. She built a lead fast. 10 feet, then more. Her form was clean and sharp, like she had years of training buried in her muscles. I kept my pace steady, refusing to panic. I told myself to stay smooth, stay calm, find the rhythm, and let the ocean help instead of fighting it. The buoy felt farther this time. The waves pushed harder, slapping against my face, trying to turn me sideways. I focused on my kicks, on my pull, on the way the water moved under me. Halfway out, I started closing the gap. Not by much, but enough that I could feel hope rise in my chest. Claire was still ahead, but I could see it in the small changes. A slight hitch in her stroke, a breath that looked tighter than before. Then I heard it. A splash that didn't match the rhythm. Claire's arm broke the water wrong, and her body jerked like something snapped inside her. She stopped and grabbed at her leg, her face twisting with pain. "Claire!" I shouted, my voice rough from salt and shock. She tried to wave me off, but it wasn't convincing. "Cramp!" she gasped. "Old knee, finish! You were catching up." I didn't even think. I turned and swam to her, closing the distance in a few strokes. The race didn't matter anymore. The cheering from the beach faded into nothing. "I'm not finishing anything," I said, sliding an arm around her waist to support her. Claire tried to keep her pride, but I could feel how tense she was, how her leg wasn't doing what she wanted. Her breath came in short bursts. "I hate this," she muttered. "I hate looking weak." "You're not weak," I said, holding her steady as a wave rolled over us. "You're human." Her eyes flashed at me, like she wanted to argue, but then her face softened, just a touch, like she didn't have the energy to fight me. We turned toward shore together. I kept my arm firm around her, and she leaned into me more than she meant to. The ocean felt heavier now, like it was testing us both. I stayed focused, guiding her through the waves, keeping her calm. "Just breathe," I told her. "Lean on me. We've got this." By the time we reached shallow water, a couple of guards were running in. They helped her stand, and Claire tried to straighten like she was fine, but she winced and grabbed my shoulder for balance. She sat down on the sand, rubbing her knee, looking furious at her own body. "Damn it," she said under her breath. I knelt beside her, ignoring the people hovering nearby. "That was a hell of a swim," I said. "You scared me for a second." Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen in her before. Not confidence, not control, vulnerability. "You could have won," she said quietly. "You were right there." I shrugged, trying to make it sound simple. Winning doesn't mean much if you're not okay. Her gaze held mine like she was searching for something, like she wanted to know if I meant it. I did. The crowd slowly drifted away once they realized there wasn't a real emergency. The noise of the beach returned. Kids laughing, music from a speaker. The normal world. But Claire and I weren't in the normal world anymore. She took a breath and tried to laugh, but it came out soft. "Well, technically you win this one too, by default." I smiled. "So I get dinner." Her eyes narrowed playfully. "Dinner, yes. And you're driving me home." "Good," I said. "Because you're not walking on that leg." She hesitated, then nodded, like she was giving in to something she didn't usually allow. "Fine. Only because you earned it." That evening, I pulled up to her bungalow in my beat-up truck. The sky was turning orange, and the ocean air felt cooler now, calmer. Claire limped up to the passenger side, and when she climbed in, she didn't say much at first. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the radio low, the windows cracked enough to let in the salt air. "You didn't have to do that," she said finally, looking out at the road. "I wanted to," I admitted, "and besides, it's not every day I beat the boss twice." She gave a quiet laugh. "Touché." Quote. When we reached her place, I walked her to the door, making sure she was steady. She stood under the porch light, hair still damp at the ends, and she looked less like my boss and more like a woman who had been carrying too much for too long. "Thanks again, Lucas," she said. "Really?" "Anytime," I said, and I didn't move away right away. Our eyes held, and something shifted in the space between us. It felt like standing at the edge of the water, right before a wave hits. You can't stop it. You can only decide if you're going to fight it or let it pull you in. I went home with my head spinning. Later that night, I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling fan, replaying her laugh, her hand on my shoulder, the way she looked at me on her porch like she wanted to say more but didn't. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "You deserve that reward. My place tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Don't be late." My stomach flipped, and my thumb hovered over the screen. Because, suddenly, dinner didn't feel like the real reward. It felt like the start of something I wasn't sure I could control. I showed up at Claire's bungalow the next evening, right on time. My truck rumbled into her driveway, and I killed the engine and just sat there for a second, staring at her porch light like it could tell me what was about to happen. The house was tucked just off the main road, with a wraparound porch facing the dunes. Wind chimes clicked softly in the ocean breeze. 2 surfboards leaned against the wall, and flower pots full of succulents lined the steps. I walked up and knocked, my heart beating too hard for a simple dinner. Claire opened the door wearing a simple sundress, her hair loose for once, falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked relaxed, but her eyes still had that sharp spark, like she was always reading the room. "Punctual," she said, stepping aside. "I like that." I stepped inside, and warmth hit me right away. Lamps glowed softly, and the place smelled like grilled fish and fresh herbs. There were bookshelves packed with novels, old swimming trophies, and framed photos of beaches from places I'd never been. It felt lived in, like someone had built a life here, even if parts of it were still missing. "Your knee okay?" I asked. She lifted her chin like she was daring me to worry. "It's fine, sit." We ate at her small kitchen table, salmon she grilled herself, a crisp salad, and bread from a local bakery. Nothing fancy, but it tasted like she actually cared. At first it was a little awkward, like we were both pretending this was normal, like this was just a boss taking a lifeguard out for a reward dinner. Then she poured iced tea, looked at me over the rim of her glass, and asked, "So tell me about you. Not the lifeguard version, the real one." I swallowed and tried to smile. The real me is pretty simple. I grew up here. Dad taught me how to swim when I was 3. Mom packed lunches and yelled at me to stop tracking sand into her car. I stayed because this place feels like it's in my bones. Claire nodded slowly, like she liked hearing that. "That explains why you move in the water the way you do." I glanced toward the trophy shelf. "Those trophies explain you." Quote. Her eyes flicked to them, and something in her softened. She rubbed her knee without thinking, like it was a habit that lived under her skin. "I was obsessed with swimming in college," she said. "State level, big dreams, big training. I thought I was going to be someone." "You are someone," I said. She gave a small laugh, but it wasn't a happy one. "Then I had a bad dive during practice, tore up my knee. Doctors told me I'd never compete at that level again. I felt like I lost a part of myself overnight." I watched her face as she spoke. Claire Reed, the woman who ran the whole coastline like nothing could shake her, looked like she still carried that loss like a stone in her pocket. "That's why you swim to the buoy every weekend," I said. She met my eyes. "Yeah, it's my reminder that I can still push, that I'm still me." I nodded, and for a moment the room got quiet, not uncomfortable, just real. Then she leaned back and studied me again. "What about you, Lucas? Any big dreams beyond the tower?" I almost laughed, because no one asked me that. People assumed my life was set. Beach, whistle, sunburn, repeat. "I don't know," I admitted. "Sometimes I feel stuck, like I'm good at what I do, but not sure if it's enough. Like I'm watching other people live bigger lives while I stay safe." Claire's gaze didn't move. Safe can be a trap. That hit me because she wasn't just talking about work. We talked for hours after that. The plates got cleared, the sun went down, the ocean outside her windows turned dark, and the room felt smaller in a way that made my skin feel awake. Claire told me about old relationships, men who liked her strength until it made them feel small. I told her about how I always felt like the quiet guy in a loud town, like I never stood out. "You stand out," she said, like it was obvious. I stared at her. "To you." She didn't answer right away. She just looked at me, and that silence felt like a hand on my chest. Later, when I finally stood to leave, she walked me to the door. Her knee still bothered her, but she hid it well. At the porch, she stopped and faced me. The porch light made her eyes look even brighter. "This was nice," she said. "Yeah," I replied, "it was." We stood there, not moving. The air smelled like salt and night flowers. I felt like I should say something smart, something careful, something that kept us on the right side of the line. Instead, Claire lifted her hand and lightly touched my arm, right where the skin was warm from the day. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for yesterday, for not leaving me out there." I held her gaze. I couldn't. Her fingers stayed there a second longer than they needed to. Then she let go. "Good night, Lucas," she said. "Good night," I replied, and forced myself to walk away. I drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel, my head full of her voice and her eyes, and the way her house felt like it was pulling me back. When I got to my place, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering if I was already in too deep. The next morning, she texted me first. "Thanks for last night. Knees better. Coffee after shift." I stared at the message for a long time before I typed back, "Yeah." And just like that, it became a routine. We met at a little cafe down the boardwalk. We walked the beach at dusk. We shared inside jokes about tourists who thought the ocean was a swimming pool. Sometimes she'd brush sand off my shoulder like it was nothing. Sometimes her hand would touch mine for half a second too long, and my whole body would react like it was a signal. One evening, we sat on a blanket with takeout pizza, watching the sky turn pink and orange. Claire leaned back on her elbows and stared at the horizon. "You're different from most guys your age," she said. I tried to play it cool, but my heart kicked up, "because I don't talk as much." "Because you listen," she said. "Really listen." I turned my head toward her. "That's just part of the job." "It's more than the job," she said, and her voice dropped. "You see people, not just the surface." Her hand brushed mine as she reached for another slice, and neither of us pulled away. The touch lingered like a question. I knew then it wasn't just a bet anymore. I liked her. Not a crush, not a passing thing. I liked the way she challenged me, the way she softened around me when no one else could see, the way she made me feel like I could be more than the quiet guy on the tower. But the risk was real. Santa Barbara is beautiful, and it is small in the way that matters. People talk, people watch, people make stories out of nothing. The whispers started slow. A couple of guards gave me sideways looks during morning briefings. Someone smirked when Claire and I stood too close near the equipment shed. Then one afternoon, Mike, one of the older guards, clapped my shoulder a little too hard. "Hey, Dawson," he said with a grin that didn't feel friendly. "Heard you're getting some special training with the boss." I forced a laugh. "Just coffee, man." Mike's eyes flicked past me, like he was checking if anyone heard. "Sure." After that, I started hearing little things in the locker room. A laugh that stopped when I walked in. A comment about me punching above my weight. A joke about Claire robbing the cradle. Each one made my stomach twist. It got into my head fast. I started wondering if everyone thought I was using her, like I was trying to climb some ladder. And what about Claire? Did they think she was making a mistake? Did they think she was weak for wanting someone younger? Did they think she couldn't control herself? I hated it. The worst part was how it made me act. I started pulling back, short replies to her texts. Excuses about being tired. A night she asked for a walk, and I lied and said I was busy. I watched the message send and felt sick, but fear was louder than my honesty. Then one evening after shift, Claire cornered me near the equipment shed as the sun dropped low. The beach was clearing out, and the wind carried the smell of the ocean and sunscreen. "Lucas," she said, voice firm, "what's going on? You've been avoiding me." I stared at the sand like it had answers. "Nothing. I'm just tired." "Bull," she said, not angry, just sure. Talk to me. Is it the rumors? I looked up, surprised. You heard them. She crossed her arms. Small town. Of course I heard them. Her eyes locked onto mine. They're getting to you. Quote. I exhaled hard, like my body had been holding it all day. I don't want to drag you into drama. You're my boss. If this blows up, it hits you harder than me. Claire's face softened, but there was fire behind it. And you think pushing me away protects me? I didn't have a good answer. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Lucas, I've spent years being careful, years building walls. And then you show up, and you make me want to take risks again. My throat went dry. Claire. She reached for my hand, and when her fingers wrapped around mine, the world narrowed to that simple touch. I don't care about the age, she said. I don't care about the job. I care about you. My heart slammed against my ribs. I squeezed her hand back. I care about you, too. Her eyes searched my face like she was making sure I meant it. Then she leaned in a little closer and said, almost like she was reminding me, do you remember the bet you won? I swallowed. The dinner. Her mouth curved, and her voice dropped lower. Not that part. My pulse kicked hard. She held my hand tighter. The reward. My mouth went dry. One night. Claire's eyes didn't blink, yes. I stared at her, feeling the fear and the want fight inside me. Then I heard my own voice, steady in a way I didn't expect. I don't want one night, I said. Claire's breath caught, and her eyes widened just a little. What do you want? She asked. I stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her warmth, and the ocean wind wrapped around us like it was trying to push us together. I want more, I said. And the way Claire looked at me after that made it clear the next choice was going to change everything. Claire didn't move right away. She just stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was brave or reckless, if I meant what I said, or if I was caught up in the moment. The wind pushed her loose hair across her cheek, and she brushed it back slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. More, she repeated, quiet but sharp. That's a dangerous word, Lucas. I swallowed, holding my ground. Maybe, but it's the truth. For a second, the beach sounds felt far away. The distant crash of waves, a seagull crying out, the muffled voices of people packing up their day. Right there by the equipment shed, it felt like the whole world narrowed down to the space between us. Claire took one step closer, and the air shifted. You think you can handle more? She asked, voice low. Not just the fun part, the talk, the looks, the way people twist it. I'm already handling it, I said, badly. But I'm here. Her jaw tightened like she didn't like hearing the word badly. Then her expression softened, and for the first time she looked less like my boss and more like a woman who was tired of carrying everything alone. Come with me, she said. I blinked. Where? My place, she said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. We're not doing this in the sand with everyone watching. She started walking, and I followed without thinking, my heart pounding hard enough to feel in my throat. We moved fast, not running, but not slow either. Like if we paused, fear would catch us. Her bungalow was only a short drive away. She didn't let me drive her this time. She got into her own car, and I followed in my truck, my hands tight on the steering wheel, my head spinning with everything that could go wrong. When I parked behind her, she was already halfway to her front door. She unlocked it, stepped inside, and looked back at me like she was daring me to come in. I did. The door closed behind us, and the sound felt heavy. Private. Claire didn't limp much, but I noticed the small stiffness in her knee when she turned. She moved through her living room like she knew exactly what she wanted, even if she was nervous underneath it. She stopped near the kitchen, facing me. Say it again, she said. My pulse jumped. Say what? What you want, she said, eyes bright. More. I took a slow breath. I want more than a reward, more than a secret dinner, more than stolen walks and half-truths at work. Claire's gaze softened. And what does more look like to you? I stepped closer, careful like the water before a storm. It looks like choosing this, out loud. Not hiding because the town has nothing better to do than gossip. Quote, her eyes held mine and I saw something break open in her face. Not weakness, Relief. I'm tired of hiding, she admitted quietly. I'm tired of being judged no matter what I do. I know, I said. Claire's laugh came out soft and shaky. You don't know how long I've been the strong one. Then she walked to me, close enough that I could feel her breath. Lucas, she said, voice low, I meant what I said. If you beat me, I'd reward you with one night. My heart slammed. She put her hand on my chest, right over my heartbeat. But you just looked at me and asked for more. I covered her hand with mine. Because one night won't fix what I feel. Her eyes searched mine, then she nodded once, like she'd made up her mind. Then prove it, she said. The words hit me like a wave. I didn't grab her or rush her, I just stepped closer, and when my hands reached for her waist, I paused like I was asking permission without words. Claire lifted her chin, her eyes locked on mine. That was my answer. I leaned in and kissed her. It started gentle, like we were both still testing if this was real, if the line was truly crossed. Then Claire's fingers curled into the back of my shirt, and the kiss deepened, hungry but still careful, like we had been holding back for weeks and finally let the truth breathe. When we pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine. Worth the wait, she whispered. I let out a shaky breath. Yeah. We didn't rush anything after that. We sat on our couch, close, her legs stretched out carefully. She talked, not about work, not about the crew, but about fear. I've dated men who wanted to control me, she said quietly, or men who wanted to be praised for letting me lead. Either way, I always felt like I had to be something for them. I listened, my hand resting lightly over hers. And you, she continued, looking at me, you don't ask me to be smaller. I don't want you smaller, I said. I want you real. Claire's eyes filled with emotion she tried to hide, and she looked away for a second, blinking fast. Okay, she said finally. Then we do this right. My stomach tightened. What does right mean? It means we stop letting rumors steer us, she said. We set boundaries. We keep work clean. And we don't give anyone a reason to say you're getting special treatment. I nodded slowly. So what? Claire took a breath. You transfer to a different beach unit. My eyebrows lifted. That's possible. It is, she said. We have openings on the North Stretch. Same pay. Same role. Different chain of command. No direct supervision from me. The idea scared me, but it also felt like relief. Because the truth was, I'd already felt the crew watching. If we kept pretending nothing was happening, it would only get worse. And I talked to the county supervisor, she added. Not for permission, for transparency. I won't be careless with your job, Lucas. Or mine. I stared at her. You'd do that. Claire's eyes didn't blink. If you want more, you don't get to take the easy road. You get the real one. I felt my chest tighten, and I realized this was the moment that mattered more than the kiss, more than the bet. This was where I proved I wasn't just chasing a thrill. I'll do it, I said. Her face softened, and she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. She leaned into me, and I held her, the ocean sound outside her windows steady and calm. The next 2 weeks were hard. People noticed when I put in the transfer request. Some guards acted surprised. Some acted like they already knew why. Mike made a comment about me running away, but I didn't bite. I kept my head down and did my job. Claire stayed professional at work, even when it hurt. No extra smiles, no private talks near the shed, just clear instructions and a steady voice. The rumors tried to follow, but they lost power when there was nothing to point at. When my transfer finally went through, I worked my last shift under Claire's supervision on a warm afternoon. The sun was low, turning the water gold. The beach was loud and alive, but inside me, everything felt quiet. At the end of the shift, Claire found me near the supply room. You ready? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, you. Her eyes softened. I'm proud of you. Quote. That simple sentence hit me harder than I expected. Later that night, I went to her bungalow. No sneaking, no pretending. Just me walking through her door like I belonged there. We sat on her porch with iced tea, the wind chimes clicking, the ocean dark and steady in the distance. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. "So," she said quietly, "you got more." I smiled, looking out at the water. "I'm not done wanting more." She laughed, and it was the warm kind of laugh that made her feel young and free. "Good," she said, "because neither am I." And as the waves rolled in, steady and endless, I realized the truth. That bet was never about one night. It was about two people daring to choose each other, even when the whole town wanted to turn it into a joke.